Okay, yes, so I've been introduced. I can take that off my list. Good, I'll get in under 7 minutes. So yeah, this is Burst Your Bubble. I want to give kind of light but practical questions to challenge our own mindsets. I mean, I've really enjoyed this conference, my first time I've come here, and the information we've had from Brian, from Dilith, from Nikki about sort of listening, having difficult conversations, segmenting audiences, I think is incredible, and I don't want to take anything away from that. What I also think we do need to do is we need to start with ourselves too. We need to understand how entrenched our own views are before reflecting for effective campaigning. My take is that without knowing your own biases, it can narrow down the messaging and campaigns that you can conceive of that might actually help deliver the outcomes you want to see. The other title I considered for my talk was Lessons from Arguing with Leon. Now, Leon is my friend, kind of co-partner in Campaign Clash, and we agree on nothing. We are diametrically opposed in every way. He's a really nice guy, he's just wrong. But from talking and arguing with him, I've learned more about how to talk to people whose views are very different to mine and slowly move them perhaps to my side. But also, it's challenged me more. It's helped me understand how entrenched some of my views are. So these 5 questions I'm going to go through are very much about what questions I've asked myself to test my own views. So firstly, is your perception skewed by the most extreme views? All the fish could be going one way, and then there's one little, this crazed crayfish over there, I'm going to call Mr. Cray Cray, who actually, that's the voice that we end up hearing. And I think we know that happens. For any controversial issue, there's a spectrum of opinions. We know the loudest voices get heard, and often we're the ones trying to amplify the voices of some people. But we often forget to apply that to our own thinking. I know, for example, I know that it's only going to be a proportion of Donald Trump supporters who are raging racists. But emotionally and sometimes subconsciously, I know I'm beginning to stereotype people. I mean, the only way I see that we can solve this is doing the sort of things that we've been talking about having difficult conversations, about talking to people in person ourselves to try and understand what makes them tick. Secondly, how strong is the evidence for your view? We always are pretty good at identifying what we see as fake things, alternative facts that are out there. But we also can get into groupthink. We all can, whether we're working for NGOs or working on our own. And there's different frames that people put on, different sort of modes of thinking. The right has a particular way of thinking about immigration, I'd argue. But there's other ways that I think it's fair that a lot of people that I talk to also have that way. In the UK, for example, any attempts to bring more market forces into public services such as the NHS are routinely decried on the left as a Trojan horse for privatisation. Sometimes they might be. Sometimes that might be there might be a conspiracy there to do it. But other times there's going to be individual circumstances where it's not fair to put that on there. And I think it's important to learn some of those mindsets you might get stuck in. I mean, I think Imran had a great phrase earlier in one of the sessions about off-the-rack opinions, things you should pick up and don't really think about. So it's important to check our own beliefs. How much have they been just reinforced by people we speak to, and how much evidence is there for them really? 3, are you stuck on just one solution? You can be fixated on just one path to your outcome, and that be blinding you to other things you could do. I was speaking to a client a couple of years ago. They were really keen on getting mandatory sex education into British schools, which I very much support. But they were very much focused on, we need a change in the law. Now, fortunately, this is where things are going now. But back then, it did not look possible. And what I was trying to get them to think of is, fundamentally, if you want all kids to have good sex education in schools, does it really matter if you achieve that outcome either through government edict or actually local enthusiasm, going school by school? There's an easier way to do it, sure, and it might be less resource intensive, but fundamentally, the mindset was stuck on one way of getting there. And I find it's quite useful to think laterally in that way and trying to put your shoes in other people's perspectives. If you work for the Green Party, how would they approach that? What would a Conservative solution be to that problem? What would a Libertarian's one? Are you genuinely interested in hearing other views? We've talked a lot about this this weekend, but I think there's things I'm really passionate about: human rights, the impact of capitalism, And sometimes I realise I'm not truly open and ready to hear an opposing view, and brave enough to do that. And talking to Leon has really helped me think that through. Open my eyes to how different people can think about controversial issues. And where he and a sort of lefty like me can agree on things. On immigration, for example, we can both agree that neither of us really want violent murderers to come into this country. That's fine. But after that, we talk about degrees. After that, we talk about how much these things might even be happening. So I think that's really important. And the final one is even stronger than that, is are you ready to have your own opinion changed? There is, by all means, you don't have to change who you are. Nail your faith to the sticking pole if so, but accept that you may be wrong, or at least wrong in part, and you may need to amend your own opinions. I mean, I've got a personal story about that. I was wrong about faith, actually. I'm a committed atheist, whatever that means. And I thought because of that, I would never be able to go out with or let alone marry someone of faith because my atheism was so strong. This November, I married a wonderful Christian woman. And my kind of perceptions of faith, of what that means, the beliefs, have forever changed because of that. And it was quite a journey for me to get there. So the last challenge I want to give to people is identify one of your beliefs, one of your opinions that is based on shaky grounds, and have the courage to try, if not change it, think it through and consider the possibility of amendment. As we're in university, I wanted to finish on a philosophical quote from John Stuart Mill on liberty, which I think is really cool here. If the received opinion be not only true, but the whole truth, unless it is vigorously and earnestly contested, it will be a prejudice, with little comprehension or feeling of its rational grounds. In other words, watch out for your own little Mr. Cray-Cray that might be hiding. Thanks very much.